Welcome back to Stedmans Garage. Have you ever gotten into your car, pressed the start button, and nothing happens, no cranking? Could it be a simple fix, or is it something more electrically hidden inside the car? Well, today that's what we're going to be looking at with this vehicle. Customers come in on a no start condition. So what we're going to do is we're going to take you through the steps and what procedure we've gone through to get to the conclusion and find what the problem is on this car. So stick around and we'll get to it. So first thing first, before we're going to do anything, what we're going to do is we're just going to get the appropriate VPE onto the customer's car. So starting off, we're going to put on our bumper cover. This just stops us scratching anything as we're leaning over the engine bay if we have to do anything there. So we'll just secure that as so. And underneath this cover at the back, what we're going to do is we're also going to put a battery maintainer onto the vehicle. That way, when we're testing the vehicle and we're going for extended periods of time with the ignition on, we're not going to be dropping voltages suddenly, causing any discrepancies in our testing. So at the moment, the vehicle is now on charge. We're going to go into the vehicle, we're going to confirm the customer complaint, we're going to go on from there. So as we're trying to start this vehicle, when we have our foot down on the clutch and we press the start button next to the key, lights appear on the dash, however, still no starting. Now, what is also noticed is we are having a prompt here to say foot down. You did just see it. I will add another video. Oh, there it is again. Is that when we put our foot down on the clutch on these BMWs and these Minis, once you've done that, this light will go out. And as you can see, the light is staying on. If I was to press this again, the ignition is just going to go straight off. No start request. So that's another thing to look at in this no start condition. So it's just worth observing all the kind of information that you can see from the car that's available to you without actually having to grab a scan tool first. Now, along with no start conditions, it's always good to check the basics. Now, the first port of call would be to check the battery. Now, what I've got here behind me is, or in front of me, is I've got a battery tester. And I've already filled in the details for the battery, and it is going to be tested now. Is it above 0? Yes. Go into that. Testing. Is the battery charged? It is. And as we can see here, bad and replace. So we will continue our diagnosis. I have substituted the battery on this before testing the battery, and it was still the same as a no start condition. But after this job is done and diagnosed, we will be advising the customer that they do need to have a battery fitted to the vehicle as well. As we can see, it looks quite old and aged now. So this is the tool we're going to be using today. It is the Autologic Drive Pro. I've already gone through and pre-selected the vehicle. Just a note, I have already diagnosed this car, so I've already been through and I have cleared out the fault codes. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach a photo on this video, and we can see the fault codes logged, which should show us that we've got an issue with terminal 50. Now, terminal 50 is our starter signal. So we've got our main cable going to the starter, and then we also have a lead going to the solenoid at the top, and this is going to be what commands our starter motor to engage. So what we can first look at, if we go into the CAS module and into the diagnostic request, which just shows us our live data, what we can do is we can have a look at our terminals. Now down here, we're interested in looking at terminal 50. Now the top one here is just showing us what voltage we have on our terminal 50, and below it is the amperage we have, which for some reason we've got a funny 0.4 amps reading there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and start the vehicle, so foot down on clutch again, and we're just going to pay attention to that second one up from the bottom. So that is now, don't know if we can see, so that should be start request, and what we can see there is we've got nothing on our terminal 50. So looks like we've got an issue with the request being sent to the starter motor. Now, in addition to looking at our terminals that we've got on the vehicle, like I said, when we put our foot down on the clutch, we're getting that light's not going out on the dash. Now, if we went into inputs, we have a PID here which says clutch switch, and it says not depressed. Now, if I put my foot down on the clutch, as we can see, it still says not depressed. So, knowing these vehicles, it needs to know that the clutch has been depressed in order to start the vehicle. If you don't have the clutch depressed, you can press that starter button as much as you want all day, and the vehicle isn't going to start. So on the screen in front of us, we have our clutch module. This is the clutch pedal position sensor. Now, from this symbol in the middle, we can determine that this is a Hall effect type sensor, and this is why we have 1, 2, and 3, and 4 wires leading to it. Now, a Hall effect sensor is a sensor that uses a magnetic field to generate an electrical signal. We find these in a lot of automotive applications. You've got clutch position sensors, accelerator pedals, camshaft, crankshaft position sensors, and they are typically very, very reliable. Now, on this pin 1 on the bottom left, this wire here just goes to ground. That's all this wire does. On pin 3, this wire up the top is our supply to the Hall effect sensor. This is what's giving the Hall effect sensor power. Lastly, we've got pin 4. This is the clutch position sensor signal to the CAS module that we've put our foot down on the clutch. And on pin 2, this wire, this black and red wire, goes down to the engine control module to tell the engine that we also have our foot down on the clutch. Now, this will be used for stuff like start-stop that the vehicle's equipped with. On 4, when this signal wire goes, or the signal goes up to the CAS module, the CAS module will see this signal. And on the other ends of the CAS module, we have this grey box. And out of pin 22, all the way down to the bottom, this wire leads to the starter motor. Now, this is our trigger wire. This is what's telling the starter motor to start. Now, if I go back to the other diagram, what's most important at checking here is we want to look at pin 3 and pin 1. We want to make sure that we have good power and ground present at our Hall effect sensor, otherwise it's not going to work at all. And if we do have good power and ground, we also want to be checking what pin 4 and pin 2 are signal wires, what are our signal wires doing. So what we're going to do is we're going to get into the vehicle and we're going to have a look at that next. Now, to find the clutch position sensor, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to go into the footwell, down by where the pedals are in the car. And as we navigate round underneath this, what we'll find is just here at the end of my thumb, this is the clutch master cylinder. Now, what we can also see is we can see a sensor on the bottom of it here. This is our clutch position sensor, the Hall effect sensor. And as we can see, we've got 4 wires, same as the diagram showed us. So if you wonder where the position sensor is, it is attached to the master cylinder. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to just pop the Hall effect sender off of the master cylinder, and we're going to run some wiring checks. Now, the clutch position sensor is very easy to get off. What you'll typically find is that from factory, these are actually cable tied to the clutch master cylinder because they are just really common for falling off, popping off. That it doesn't take any effort at all to get a fingernail underneath the little tab on the end and pop it off of the cylinder. But despite that, what we're going to do is we're just going to check our wiring. So first of all, if we leave the sensor there, just going to get the multimeter, unravel it and bring it in. So this is the one I'll be using today. Model number is A0C1+A0C2. This one I actually picked up off Amazon. It's been really good, quite reliable, so I quite like this one. And next, the other thing that we'll need is just a couple of back probes to put on the end of our test leads so that we can test the wiring. Now that I've got the multimeter set up and the clutch position sensor out of the master cylinder, what we're going to do is, after referring back to the wiring diagram, this brown wire at the top, this is our ground, so I'll put my black lead there. And on pin 3, so the first one being our ground being pin 1, then we've got the red and black pin 2, and then on pin 3 we've got this violet and grey wire. We're going to place our positive in that pin. Now, when I turn round the camera, what we'll be able to see is that we have 14.3 volts present on the Hall effect sensor. So this is a good power supply. This is slightly higher than you would see with just the ignition on, but this is because I have the battery charger connected to the vehicle. So after determining that the power and ground is good, what we're going to do next is we are going to check our pin 2, which is the black and red wire, just to the right of that. So as we can see here, I've reinstalled the clutch position sensor onto the master cylinder. It's just worth noting as well that the rod that goes through the master cylinder to force the clutch fluid to the slave cylinder at the gearbox, inside there is actually a magnet, and the way the Hall effect works is it's detecting this change in the magnetic field, so that when I depress the clutch, which you can just see moving at the top there, is it's actually going past the Hall effect, and this is what's changing the electrical state inside the sensor. Now, if we watch what is going to happen on the multimeter as I depress the clutch pedal, is we've gone from a state of 0 volts up to 12 volts. Now this is on the pin 2, which leads to our engine control module. And what we'll do is we'll look on the scan tool to check to see if the engine control module is receiving this 12 volt signal when I depress the clutch pedal. Now back to the scan tool. I'm currently in the DME, which is the engine control module. What we're going to do is we're going to go into diagnostic requests and then go to foot pedal. And the third one up here is clutch switch, and it states here that it's not operated. So as I depress this clutch pedal, as we can see, we go up to 12 volts. And on the scan tool, we can see it's operated. Now, if I take my hand off of the clutch pedal, back to a not operated state, and depress it back to an operated state. So, at least on this pin 2, we are getting a signal from the Hall effect sensor on that clutch pedal back up to our engine control module. Now, what we're going to check next is we're going to check our pin 4, which goes from the clutch pedal position switch down the bottom, and it's going to go up to the CAS module, which is underneath the dashboard. Now, if the signal is received by the CAS module, what it should then be able to do is send our feed to the starter motor to get this cranked. Now, what I've done is I have moved the back probe out of pin 2, and I've moved it into pin 4, which you can just see on the end of my finger here. Now, what we're reading on this in a pedal up, not operated state, is we're seeing quite a lot of fluctuations there. So 0.1, it hovers a little bit and then it would occasionally jump, but the average here being 0.01 of a volt. Now, if I depress this clutch pedal, I'll just turn on the backlight as well, what we can see is it's hardly risen at all. It's at 0.16 of a volt. Now what I'm going to do is we just move over to the scan tool, what I'm in here is the CAS module, and we're just going back again to look at the clutch switch state, which is saying not depressed. Now, if I put my hand down on the clutch pedal and we come back to look at the scan tool, we can still see the state says not depressed. So it looks like we've definitely got an issue with our signal being sent out of the clutch position sensor up to the CAS module, and this is why we aren't getting any input change up here. So next, what we're going to do is on the back of the position sensor for the clutch pedal, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the feed for the Hall effect sensor and I'm going to bridge it and place it on this pin 4 to supply it the 12 volts that's required at the CAS module to activate the starter motor. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do that now, and then we'll go back to the scan tool and then we'll see what it says. Now I've taken the Hall effect sender out of the clutch master cylinder again, just so I can move the pins over, the back probes over a little bit easier. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be taking our supply voltage for the Hall effect sensor, which is on pin 3, and I've got my other back probe still in pin 4. Now what we're going to do is I'm just going to be taking a jumper lead, same connection at both ends, and I'm going to be taking or tapping into the power supply given to the Hall effect to make the car think that the clutch, or to make the CAS think that the clutch position sensor has been depressed. So what we're going to do is we're just going to slot this back up, so back end first and then click in. As you can see, it didn't take a lot there to clip it in, and this is why these often have a cable tie wrapped around them. But now that we've got 12 volts coming out of pin 3 and then going back up into pin 4, which is the wire leading up this pack of wires here up to the dashboard where the CAS module lives. And if we then come round and have a look at the scan tool, we can see here clutch switch depressed. What this tells us then is that our wiring integrity, so the wire itself on pin 4, which tracks all the way around the back of this column and then up behind the dashboard to the CAS module behind here, that tells me all that wiring is good. Not only that, it tells us the CAS module is also receiving the signal and is interpreting that signal to mean depressed. Now, what we can also do is if we go back to the DME, which is the engine control module, and we go back to diagnostic requests and to the foot pedal, the clutch switch there which says not operated, if I was to push this down by hand, it now also says operated. So with any luck, when I get into the vehicle and I have my foot on the clutch and we press the start button, fingers crossed, this vehicle is now going to start. So now, the moment of truth. Just shift this seat forward a little bit. Right, what we're going to do is we're going to depress the clutch pedal. As we can see here, it says it's in an operated state, same as the CAS module we're seeing. And now, when we press the key, the vehicle now starts. So that there is a fix, and we have a bad clutch pedal position sender. Also, just to show everyone, on the terminal list, we'll just go back to terminal 50 here. What I've just done is I've just tapped it to graph what readings it's going to be receiving on this second to bottom one. So now when I try and start it, what we'll see is we'll see activity on the terminal 50, and what you're going to be seeing is a spike, and this spike is the signal being sent to the starter motor, and then when the engine is started, you'll see that signal drop back down to 0. So we see the spike, that was our activation, or the request for the starter motor to start. And as we see, turns on very quickly as the car has started. So this one is customer complaint fixed, and after the new clutch pedal position sensor is fitted to the vehicle, we'll be able to send the customer back on their way. So there you have it. If your car's not starting and you're not getting a trigger signal down at the starter motor, if your car has one fitted, don't overlook the clutch pedal position sensor. A few little checks with the multimeter can save you loads of frustration and time. Also remember, start off with the basic checks. Non-starting conditions a lot of the time could be related to the battery as well. So like we did at the beginning, we want to make sure that the battery is all good as well. Not only that, is there anything on the car, i.e. the dash, that could be telling us some symptoms with the car that could ultimately lead us to solving the issue on this customer's car. So just to round up on this video, what we've done is we have confirmed the customer complaint on the vehicle. Whilst also trying to start the car at the beginning of the video, we noticed that there was a prompt telling us to put our foot on the clutch pedal. Now when we did this, the light was remaining active. Then what we did next is we had a look at the fault codes, and after that we had a look at some live data. This live data ultimately showed us that there was no signal being sent to the starter motor, and we were able to confirm that. After all that, we had a look at a wiring diagram, and we could see that the clutch pedal position sensor was linked to both the engine control module and the car access system, the CAS module. And lastly, what we did is we did some checks in the footwell with our multimeter at the clutch pedal position sensor. And in the end, we ran a bypass to fool the car into thinking that the CAS module has seen this request from a faulty clutch pedal position sensor, and the car has now started. If you enjoyed this video and it helped you, hit that like button and subscribe to see more of what we do here at Stedmans Garage. If you've got any questions, drop them in the comments and we'll try to help you out the best we can. Until the next time, thank you very much.